to select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games.
It's your first year, Prim. Your name's only been in there once. They're not gonna pick you.
Primrose Everdeen.
Welcome to Read, Watch, Play, your dive into the stories we love and how they're adapted. My name is Nick Kingston, and I'm here with Randy Barrage, who I'm sure is about to make me angry with whatever he says next.
Well, this is amazing because we have second-time guest, Lucky Flickerman, father of Caesar Flickerman. And he thinks he can come onto this podcast and just take my intro. You know, he's been on here 2 times. I don't know, where does this guy get off?
I mean, basically a part of the show now. Pretty soon this is going to be an exclusively Hunger Games podcast.
Yeah, I don't think I have the interview capabilities of a Flickerman. But how was it seeing your son on screen? Or I guess you were on... Yeah, your son.
No, it would have been my son. Yeah,
it would have been your son, yeah.
I know I look great for my age, Randy. You don't have to keep telling me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. I forgot to say it in the intro, but we are covering the Hunger Games today.
Yeah, we're covering the Hunger Games, coming from District 12. You just nailed that.
Yeah. Just forgot half of it. This is why Randy does the intro, not me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one. I don't know if it's a big one, but it feels like a big one.
It is a personal favorite of mine. And maybe because I've been talking about it since we started doing this podcast, it feels like a big one, but I am excited for this conversation.
I think what I was most excited about is the past 5 episodes have been very new releases. I mean, we've done Argyle, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon. We recorded one that hasn't come out yet, but even that was a 2021 release or 2 release.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we've done an old one since The Shining. I don't think we've done anything older than like 2021.
Yeah, because Dune was back in
2021.
No, Dune was 2020, right?
No, it was 2021.
2021? Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's
Kicking
nice.
it old school today.
What is nice about it is for the editing, it's way easier to find clips on the internet to put into the podcast. And 2, I don't know. I like things that have a little bit longer in the culture, where we're not only pulling from our memories, seeing it and watching it or reading it the first time, but we have these kind of new experiences with it. Speaking of, I'm pretty sure I know how you found out about the Hunger Games, but did you read this or watch this first?
Oh, I read it. You were the one who showed me the book.
I thought so.
We were in that Borders behind the Wegmans. Those of you from Horsham or Warminster, Pennsylvania will know exactly what we're talking about.
4 people.
But my mom was... My mom was showing me the book, and then you were with us, and you came up and you started talking about how good it was. And this would have been, what, 2009?
Yeah, it came out in 2008. I don't know.
This might have been 2008 then.
I can't remember. But yeah, they had one of those little staff cards on the book where they give the recommendations, and I picked it up based on some recommendation from a Borders employee. This was like right when it came out. Loved it. I miss Borders. But
did we watch the movie together for the first time?
I'm not sure.
I've been thinking about that. I can't figure it out.
I can't remember. Yeah. When we get there, we'll think about the release date and where we would have been at that time.
Yeah.
But we both read the book first, which was, I mean, it's huge then. Yeah, but before we get too far, if you're new here, we cover adaptations of our favorite books, movies, games, comics, you name it. We discuss the genesis of those stories, how they show up across different mediums. We've covered things like Jurassic Park, Shining, unfortunately, Argyle. We release an episode every other Tuesday. You know, podcasting, it's kind of a lot of work, we're realizing. And weekly is just not going to happen right now. So we release every other Tuesday. Our format is we chat about the source material pretty much the first, I wouldn't say half, but maybe the first 40% of the pod. And then we transition into the adaptation. So if you're here just for the movie, look at the show notes. We'll kind of point out when we're getting into movie territory, but you're already here. Just listen to the whole thing. The book conversation's good anyway. Nick, if people want to get in touch with us, where can they follow us?
Yeah, first and foremost, please follow us and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps new people find our show, and we appreciate it greatly. Pretty soon, Randy, we'll be coming to YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, YouTube just started allowing you to put your podcast kind of easily onto YouTube, where they'll just create like a static image. So if for some reason you want to just see a static image of the podcast and listen to it there, go for it. I don't know anybody who does that.
Can we change the static images? So
I think it's just our podcast image.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we can change it to our pretty faces.
Yeah, but it'll be on there. We're on a few other locations too, like Pocket Cast, and I don't know if we're on iHeartRadio, but let us know if you'd like to listen to somewhere else, and we'll try and get the show there.
Yeah. You can also connect with us on Instagram at Read Watch Play Podcast. We check that every day. We would love to hear from you. That's where we post most of our updates on what episodes are coming out, what episodes we're recording soon. So if you have any comments or any insights into any of those, we would love to hear from you, and we'll definitely include you in the show. It's also a good place if you just have questions or recommendations. We're always down to talk about books and movies. So that's the place to find us. And if you want something a little bit longer form, we do have a Gmail, readwatchplaypod@gmail.com. Feel free to write to us there. And really, that's where you should put any negative reviews you have, because we'll definitely get to that.
Yeah.
Email, eventually.
Yeah. I mean, and you nailed it. You got the email this time.
I have been practicing that all day, getting the Instagram and the email right, because I decided that the Hunger Games is where I turn over a new leaf.
Yeah, you did it. Won't say anything else, but yeah, I mean, we appreciate everyone reaching out. We officially hit our 90 days. It will be even longer when this comes out, but we've had just kind of a huge swell of listens and people following us on Instagram lately. So just thanks to everyone who does that. It does, really help the show and makes us feel nice for doing all this. Note on spoilers. You can guess, we're going to spoil the Hunger Games. Probably
the first movie and book.
Yeah, definitely the first movie and book. I'm sure we'll talk in generalities about the future books and future movies. We'll probably mention the prequel Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes at some point.
We will definitely mention
definitely.
That. I mentioned that twice soon, actually.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll probably talk about how much I don't like the soundtrack in that one. And yeah, we can move on from there. Synopsis, back of the book. This is coming from our pretty illustrious first edition copies of the Hunger Games. So we have, it's pretty intense. It's kind of a long one. Winning means fame and fortune. Losing means certain death. The Hunger Games have begun. In the ruins of a place once known as North America lies the nation of Panem, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. The capital is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them all to send one boy and one girl between the ages of 12 and 18 to participate in the annual Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen regards it as a death sentence when she steps forward to take her sister's place in the games. But Katniss has been close to dead before, and survival for her is second nature. Without really meaning to, she becomes a contender. But if she is to win, she will have to start making choices that weigh survival against humanity and life against love. Nick, that is the Hunger Games. What do you think of this book?
Before I give you what I think of this book, I have to unfortunately correct something I said in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. When we were doing that episode, I will admit I did not look at any of the future Hunger Games books again or movies. I was just focused on that. And I didn't remember that this was North America. I thought this was a broader
Yeah, I didn't know what you were talking
metaphor.
about.
And then on the back of the book and in chapter 1, it explicitly states it's North America. So for those of you who have roasted me since then, thank you. And I just I'm willing to admit that I was wrong on that one. And maybe I should have done a bit more research before saying something stupid.
Hey, that's all right. We all make mistakes. But
if that's the dumbest thing I'm going to say on this podcast, that's going to be a win.
Yeah, I just kind of expected more from such a prestigious host like Lucky Flickerman, but
you could have said, I'm the PETA to your Katniss, I'm the alcohol to your Hey Mitch. There was like plenty of directions for you to go here. You didn't have to call me an old jerk.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's got the charisma, or as maybe the kids say these days, he's got the riz. But PETA, kind of just stale bread. I was thinking about it. The districts. What district are we from? I'm pretty sure we're from District 12. Like when I'm thinking of,
that's like Appalachia.
Really? I thought it was just like coal. I don't know. I just assumed Pennsylvania.
There's a map somewhere in. I can't find it.
Okay, it said it corresponds primarily to the states of Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. That kind of checks out.
District 12 does?
Yeah. Oh,
what district would we be?
We might be the blown up one, District 13.
Nice. Living underground.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So anyway, what'd you think of the book? You like the Hunger Games?
Randy, I think this book is fantastic. I've read the book. I listened to the deluxe version of the audiobook, and I've seen the movie. And listen, I know your next question is going to be, Nick, what's the difference between the regular and deluxe audiobook? I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. Didn't look it up. I would recommend the deluxe version because it was fantastic, but I'm sure the regular version is fine too.
Did you listen to that? What did you listen to it on?
I listened to it on Audible.
Okay. Because I found it on YouTube too, because I was kind of flipping back and forth.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I have an Audible subscription because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I just picked it up there. I know I will be putting our friendship on the line here. This might be my favorite YA series / adaptation.
Yeah, definitely is.
Definitely of
putting
the late
line.
Definitely of the late 2000s, right? Because I think this came out right as Harry Potter was kind of ending.
Book wise, yes,
yeah. That's what I meant. But I love a dystopian future novel. It's like my top three type of novels that I love to listen to. I love a book where the characters just have grit. And I mean, this is gritty like the Flyers. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good characters here. And this is one of those examples where it is perfect, like right place, right time for us. When this book came out, we were the same age as Katniss, and we got to grow up with her through these books. So because of that, it's definitely above like the Twilights, the Maze Runners, Divergence.
My main issue is I haven't really seen any of those.
Well, actually, I think Maze Runner's great. We should do that.
I've seen the first Maze Runner. What was it like rereading? Coming back to this?
That's a great question, because I think that having reread it after reading The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes really was a value add. I think the prequel was so good that it changed some of the perspectives you have on future characters. Obviously on Coriolanus Snow, right? President Snow, because that's what the prequel focuses on, and he's a very big character in the first Hunger Games. Actually, really all the Hunger Games books, but especially the first one. And then you get a lot more background on District 12 and what they have to go through and who they are as a community. And I think that added a lot of value to Katniss, PETA, Gale, a lot of the main characters of this first book. So I thought the rewatchability factor was through the roof, or the readable and rewatchable, they're going through it again. That factor was way better on this time through. I don't know how else to say that. I just really loved it, and I thought it was even better. And I don't know. Let me hear your thoughts on the book, though. I just rambled for a while. Your turn.
Yeah. No, I like the Hunger Games. I like it a lot. I was a huge fan when it first came out. Like you said, we were 16, same age as Katniss. We could have been in the Hunger Games too. Probably died in some accident in the training center, not even make it to the games. And
You would have been over there with PETA. You would have been fine. You would have just been painting.
Yeah, we would have
stuff.
been doing paper mache, like little pipe cleaner designs.
Yeah, see, you would have been fine.
Yeah, we would have been fine. Yeah, very harmless stuff. No, I like it. I like the Hunger Games. It was fun coming back to it because it had been so long. I probably hadn't read this book in 12, 13 years. I was rereading them more closely when the movies were coming out and when I was waiting for Mockingjay to come out. But I like it. I mean, I didn't read many dystopian novels prior to this coming out, so this was just something new for me in general. And yeah, I mean, it was like one of those things I was reading and I was telling everyone, hey, you should read this. It's really good. And I liked it. And rereading it, I felt pretty similar. I still liked it. It felt a little bit like kind of when you love something as a child and you return to it like an old video game. And that video game felt so full and alive and big when you were a kid. And then you play it and you're like, it's actually not that big. And when I was reading this book, I was kind of like, in my head, the cast of characters was so huge and the arena battle went on forever. And I think I was also influenced by the movie a little bit, but it felt so grand and deep and long. And when I returned to it, it's really not. It's like, it's a pretty quick read. It's builds great suspense, throughout the book and you're just kind of flying through it, but it's pretty simple. And because it's from Katniss's perspective, like the perspective remains pretty focused and narrow on what she's doing, and you don't really stray outside of that. So it was an interesting thing to return to, but I like it. It was a cool, like sort of new world to kind of sink your teeth into of what was going on. Some stuff I didn't love the love triangle stuff. But the supporting cast of characters was like a lot of fun. I forgot how great Haymitch and Effie were and her team. It was like basically watching like an episode of Queer Eye where, I'm just like, except that without like the sobbing of like the emotional, heartwarming story that every episode of Queer Eye is. But it was excellent. I loved it.
Do you typically like romance in novels you're reading? Or, I mean, especially when you think about this genre, does the romance aspect do it for you? Or is it something you could just take or leave?
I feel like I'm good with romance, and I kind of like those reluctant sort of relationships where it's tough to get to the point where they're together. But I'm very anti love triangle, and I think that's why this irks me a little bit. And it's also just tough reading like 16-year-olds in love, because you also think of ourselves at that time and you're just a big friggin' idiot. Like it's just
speak
like
for yourself.
It's like really tough. And I'm like, I felt like I was watching Padme and Anakin again in Attack of the Clones, and I'm like, just rub sand in my eyes right now, please, because I cannot put up with any more of this. But generally, I'm pretty okay with love. I can be kind of a sap, but some parts of this were tough. What about you?
That's fair. I don't like romance for the sake of romance in novels. I think if it has a place in the story, I'm all for it. And if you do it well, fantastic. I'll enjoy reading it. Can get a little sappy with it sometimes, but sometimes I feel like there was a trend probably a little bit after the Hunger Games came out where all of those books were throwing these ridiculous relationships in there, and I didn't feel like it built either of the characters or the story. It was just like a weird love aspect to have love in your, I don't know. I hated that. But if it makes sense to the plot or to the characters, I'm all for it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I get that. Do you have any sections of the book that stick out to you that you really enjoyed? Could be your first time through or even on this reread.
So one of the sections I really enjoyed in this book was in the movie, but not to the extent it was in the book. So there is a time in the Hunger Games where they're in the games, and one of the supporting characters, Rue, and Katniss become very close very quickly. The relationship between them is longer, or there's more interaction between them in the book than in the movie. And I really enjoyed that. And I felt like some of that was missing in the movie. I also really enjoyed the inner dialogue that you get from Katniss pre-games in the book, where with her relationships with her mother, Prim, Peeta, Haymitch, all of them. I really did enjoy those scenes as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that it parallels a little bit to the movie for me, where the first, they divide the book into 3 parts. There's like the lead up to the games, of Katniss getting selected and then going through the training and all that. The second part is, the bulk of the arena. Then the third is like the end of the games and after. And I just loved, this is the sort of fish out of water chapters where Peeta and Katniss arrive at the Capitol. And
those are good scenes.
They're like eating this food that they're not used to. They're also scared shitless because they don't know like when they're being listened to. And then everything's a little bit sinister because like at any point in time, like, they are prisoners and they're prisoners that are being shipped off to die, and I just love that. And there's like almost like this espionage aspect of it of like, what is going on, and Katniss isn't sure who she can trust, even leading up to the games. And I just love that. And that had a lot of time to breathe in the book. So I really love that stuff. I did love all the Rue stuff in the arena too. I thought that was great. I did want to ask you, when you were reading this, where did you think the end of the book was heading? Where we see Katniss enter the Hunger Games. Like, I mean, obviously we know that there were future books in the series. I think Only Catching Fire was planned to come out.
It's literally on the back of the first edition prints of the Hunger Game.
Yeah. But I don't know. What were you expecting? Like, were you expecting Peeta to make it? Were you expecting her to win? Like, how did you think this was going to go down?
That's
if you can recall, because it was 14 years ago now, or 16 years ago.
Yeah. I think that I obviously expected Katniss to make it through the games somehow. I didn't know how that was going to happen as we were getting towards the end and the cast kept getting smaller and smaller. But I don't think I would have expected Peeta to make it through.
Yeah.
I probably would have anticipated that it would have gotten down to the two of them and Peeta was going to make, this ultimate gesture of love and letting Katniss win the games. And that was going to be the spark for Catching Fire. I definitely did not see where Suzanne Collins was going with it. I do remember being shocked when they both got out of there in a good way, obviously. And it's why she's on the Mount Rushmore of YA authors. It's because she did that so well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't pull many punches. Like, she writes some pretty dark stuff. For these being for a somewhat younger audience. Like, there's some dark themes to them. Even more so. And now that we return to this, and I was thinking about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I was like, there's some gross stuff going on in that book in comparison to the Hunger Games, which seemed a little bit lighter than I remembered.
The books definitely age with the audience who was, or with the intended audience.
Yeah.
Did you see where it's coming from though? Do you remember?
No, I mean, I've said this before on the podcast. I'm a moron when I read books. Like, I don't know what's coming at all. But I expected Katniss to make it. I wasn't sure about Peeta, and I think even rereading it, the book does a really good job, I think, through the first half of making you question Peeta's motivations or how smart he is. And I think you come to realize through the end that he's kind of a dope and that everything he's doing is kind of in earnest, for better or worse. But the thing that I had struggled with, and I still do a little bit, was why the Capitol was so upset. at the end, when it seemed like they had kind of put on the best Hunger Games show that has ever happened. And people were kind of like really eating out of the palm of Katniss and Peeta's hands. But I do get that it's probably because they took control of the situation a little bit over the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And that could spawn seeds of rebellion. I don't think the people in the Capitol are realizing that, but I think people in the districts may have seen what they did. And, we've read the rest of the series, but I didn't really get why they reacted so harshly. And it's almost like to me that they pushed Katniss into becoming this symbol of rebellion where it could have just kind of fizzled out if they wanted it to. But I guess that's why villains kind of make their own demise sometimes.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I agree with you. And I think there's two big things to what you just said. And one of them is, I think, again, the prequel adds a lot of that context when you think about the relationship of Dr. Gall and Coriolanus Snow, the young Coriolanus Snow, and what she's teaching him about human behavior.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I definitely didn't put this together at 16. I'm not some, super reader, but reading it as somebody older, what I took from why Snow was so angry and embarrassed of that was because the whole premise of the Hunger Games is there can only be one winner and you can't fight back from the Capitol, and we're going to do this. And Katniss put them in a situation where there would either be no winner, and if there's no winner, why would you let this reaping keep happening? Or there's going to be two winners, and if there could be two winners this year, why can't there be two winners every year?
Yeah.
Why can't this be a district versus district thing, not pit people in the districts against each other? So that's what I took from why Snow was so angry, was that loss of control. And again, to what you said, planting the seeds of things can change. It doesn't have to be like this. You can rebel.
Yeah. I get it. And I think even I felt it a little bit more in the movie, but always just kind of didn't quite like 100% land for me. But I definitely get like how the story is meant to progress from there and why it's written in that way. Do you recommend the book?
Does a squirrel collect nuts?
Yeah. I hope so.
I absolutely would recommend this book. And I think even if you read it when you were younger or you're outside of the target audience now, I do think it's a worthwhile read, especially if you enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I agree. If you've seen the movie, never read the book, I'd say pick it up. It's a quick read. It
is a quick read.
Yeah.
It's only
very easy.
First edition copy.
372 pages.
Yeah. It's. I
only know because I finished it like 4 hours ago. I was like really running up to the wire. Yeah, it's good. I definitely recommend it. What do you think that they needed to get right with the adaptation for this to work?
Yeah, I have two here. And this first one is super obvious, but it needed to be a good standalone movie. Not a good movie for people who read the books. Not a good movie for people who were 16. This movie needed to be great. Just period. Like, end of story. I don't know how else to say that. It needed to be a really great book, because if you're going to start building, and this, we see this over and over now, like since, if you're going to start building a franchise or some sort of IP based storyline where you're going to have multiple movies or TV shows and movies, the first one has to be killer. It's got to be the hook. And the second thing I had was you absolutely had to nail Katniss. Of all the characters you're going to nail in that time period, and especially within this book, if you don't find a young actress who can pull off the demeanor of Katniss while also being captivating enough to run with 3, or in this case 4 movies, it's never going to work. It doesn't matter how good everybody else around them is. That is the most important cast you're going to do.
Yeah.
And
spoiler
alert, I think they did it.
Yeah, Katniss. I think she's the most important thing. Like, if you don't get her right, everything else falls apart or falls into place. And even in what I've read about the casting, that was the way the producers felt as well.
Yeah.
So you can't have a Harry Potter series and mess up casting Harry. Can't do Lord of the Rings and miscast Frodo. Like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's like Lord of the Rings, not to jump ship here, but I think that's another really good example where you have a really strong supporting cast around Frodo. And a lot of those storylines don't always have Frodo in them, but he's still the anchor of that story. And if you think about the Hunger Games, these other characters don't matter if you don't have that anchor. And that anchor is Katniss's storyline.
Yeah. I mean, she's the through line. Because everyone's revolving around her. She's the sort of the mass of the movie.
Yeah, agreed.
A little bit of background. So this was written by Suzanne Collins, published in 2008 by Scholastic. Suzanne actually used to write for Nickelodeon.
No, really?
She did some stuff like Little Bear. Something about Clarissa. I was looking at it this morning. Clarissa explains, or Clarissa knows it all. I don't know. She had a few shows on there she used to write for, and she also had another series going, book series. And then when that was wrapping up, she sent this proposal around the Hunger Games idea into, Scholastic, and just to see what they thought of it, and they loved it. And she said the inspiration for this came from channel surfing on television. She said she was flipping through, and on one channel she saw that they were people competing on a reality show, and then on another she had footage of the invasion of Iraq. And she said the two began to blend in an unsettling way, and the idea started to come into her mind. As she started to think more about this, she said she was also really influenced by kind of the gladiatorial games. Suzanne Collins also thinks about the Roman Empire. So this kind of provided
She's one of us.
Yeah. This also provided the framework for her. And then she also based Katniss's experience and sort of, I'd say, inner experience on her own time in childhood. Her father, she said, served in the Vietnam War and was also an influence on the story. And, kind of that those dark passages and the death of young characters and the difficult parts of the book to write, she felt that they were necessary to the story because that was reality. And just, she pulled that from kind of her own experience of what it was like growing up with a father who served and talked about having friends die young. And so she pulled a lot of that. I don't know if this is the time to start to talk about Battle Royale. As some people have claimed that this is like a ripoff of that. I think it's kind of a lazy critique, as like all art is influenced by other art. And I could also, I've seen the Battle Royale movie. I haven't read the book, so I'm not a authority on this by any means. But outside of like it being a competition where kids fight to the death, I don't find that there's much similarities at all between the two. And even if there was, people are influenced all the time by stuff. And Battle Royale was also influenced by things that also came way before it. It didn't invent the idea of this type of novel. So I think it's okay to like both for people who feel this like struggle.
I've never heard that before. That's really interesting. I've never seen or read Battle Royale.
Yeah.
But I haven't even heard that in all of my Googling of the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it was big in the nerd forums back in the day.
Okay. Pre-Reddit.
No, it wasn't or I don't know when Reddit started, but it might have been pre-Reddit. But yeah, movie-wise, so The Hunger Games was released in 2012, directed by Gary Ross. Screenplay was primarily done by Suzanne, and she was also an executive producer. And she just had a heavy influence on this, which I think, we talked about this with The Last of Us. It's great to include the people who know the source material if they're around. They can really just do a great job with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting hearing, because I don't like reading the background you do before this. I like to be surprised by it. So hearing that she was already a writer for screen and, with a major network, it makes so much sense why she would be included here, where sometimes maybe other authors aren't. Yeah. And why she can nail it by herself, because, writing a book and screenwriting are different skills. And that's fascinating. I actually really like the tidbits you pulled here.
Yeah. I mean, and she's jumping from Little Bear to the Hunger Games. A little bit of a pivot, but she did it. Um, the development began in 2009 when Lionsgate acquired the rights less than a year after the release of the novel for $200,000. I saw, and again, I do a little bit of research, but I'm not fact checking, their tax returns. But I thought it was all 200K, and if that is true, they made out pretty great on this because this movie made a lot of money.
Yeah,
and apparently Lionsgate risked it all with this too, where they were unprofitable, it said, for 5 years leading up to this, which I don't know how that is possible because I thought they were doing the Twilight movies at this time. But apparently they sold off a bunch of assets and canceled other projects to shift budget into this movie. And if this didn't pay off, who knows? I mean, Lionsgate could have folded. But I think they had this shared vision and knew what they wanted to do with it. And this was a smashing success. Movie came out on March 23rd, made almost 700 million worldwide at the box office on a budget of apparently 75 million. So they cleaned up.
Yeah.
And even on the critical side, they, most times, sometimes the big money makers don't get the critical reception or even the fan reception. But this did well. I mean, it's sitting at a 7.2 on IMDb, 3.6 on Letterboxd. Even a guy, Roger Ebert, gave it a 3 out of 4 stars. So
and he hates everything.
Yeah. So people liked this movie and thought it not only delivered as an adaptation, but just delivered as a movie, which this was cool. Yeah. March 23rd, 2012. We potentially could have seen this in spring break when we were in college. I don't remember where I saw it, but it was definitely in a movie theater.
Yeah, I've still been thinking about it. I have no idea. Again, I know I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
I probably would have seen it with you, is what I think. So we'll call it a spring break film in 2012.
Yeah. So what do you think of the movie at a high level?
Movie I thought was fantastic. I'm going to rate it very highly in these categories. Spoiler alert. But I really think the movies not only adapted it well, the story well, but it added to the story in meaningful ways. And we talked a lot about the adaptation being a value add when we talked The Last of Us. So I'm not going to dive super into it. If you want to know our thoughts there, you can check that episode out too. But I think they really did a good job with that. And because of that, it just sits so highly on my list of adaptations we're going to cover this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe a hot take, but I think the movie's better than the book. I don't know. Returning, I had a better experience watching than I did rereading. And it's not that reading the book again was a poor experience, but it just felt very young adult when I read the book.
Yeah.
Where the movie did some, I think, really great things and kind of expanded. And I think a little bit of that was the movie came out in 2012. Suzanne had written this book 4 years earlier. And I just think she had more time to let some of these ideas marinate a bit and cook. And then she also wasn't as restricted to being solely through Katniss's viewpoint. The book is written first person, and you never stray outside of Katniss's mind that I can recall. Like, not even, no, I don't think ever. Even flashbacks are from her perspective. Yeah. And where the movie, you can't, unless they're doing a voiceover, they shift out of that. And I think she really played with building out that cast of characters a little bit more. And I think she did a great job with that. And I think the movie did such an excellent job of just building on the source materials, building a great cast around Jennifer Lawrence. And yeah, the movie just rocks. I mean, especially the first half. I think the first half of the movie is like truly excellent. I already mentioned even in the movie, some of the Peeta Katniss cave stuff is just tough for me. I just like I don't enjoy it as much, but almost everything outside of that, I think this movie kind of rocks. Any other things you kind of want to say on that?
No, and I don't know that. Well, actually, I don't know why I was going to say no and then keep talking.
I do it all the time.
One thing that I wanted to say, and it's kind of an observation really on what you've been saying about how you enjoyed the book and the movie, is that adaptation choice to take it from Katniss's perspective exclusively to you kind of see things through the lens of Haymitch and Peeta and Katniss and a bunch of different characters in the movie. That change, I think, made Peeta's motives a lot more obvious, to what you were saying. Like when you read the book, you're kind of questioning it and you don't really know where Peeta stands until kind of halfway through. But I feel like in the movie, it was obvious and it almost made you want to like scream at Katniss, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you like? Come on. And that was just my only comment on that, because I don't know that that's going to fit in any categories, but hearing you say that really made me think about that this last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. I mean, in general, like I feel like almost everything that happens outside of the arena, I just love. I mean, I loved it in the book, but I really loved it in the movie. And it was just good. One thing that I was laughing about last night is after I watch every movie, I go on Letterboxd and I just see what people wrote. And I was giggling at this for like 10 minutes. This Shay on Letterboxd, you got me, whoever you are, said, it's been 7 years since this movie was released and 11 years since the book was published. And here I am still laughing at how Katniss and Peeta's relationship name would be Penis. And tell you what, 10:30 p.m. last night, that got me good. Like, Suzanne, how did you not realize this?
Yeah.
She knew what she was doing. You got any rapid fire questions? Move into those.
Yeah, let's hit them. All right, you ready for these?
Yep, hit them.
Pew 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 pew.
Pew pew.
You're not gonna give me any pew.
Sorry.
There we go. I was waiting for you. I was like, really? Ready? No pew pews back. All right, first one. Effie in the book or Effie in the movie?
Movie.
Yeah, great call. Do you think I could pull off Seneca Crane's beard?
Yes.
I'm shocked because I fully thought you were going to say no, and I've been preparing to scream at you about this.
I'm just hoping that influenced you to tomorrow wake up and shave that and just walk out into the world. So,
and I actually have 2 listener write-ins for rapid fire questions.
All right.
Who is your favorite tribute not from District 12?
I mean, it's got to be
Rue's
Rue.
The easy answer.
Yeah, Rue.
But give me a
yeah. If we don't count Rue, I mean, I know we said rapid fire, so sorry to whoever asked this, but I was shocked reading the book again and realizing you don't know nearly any of the other tributes. You know Thresh, who is from Rue's district. Yeah, obviously you know Rue. You know Kato, and that's the only names you know. And then you get general qualities of the others. So I'll go with a general quality person. Got to be Foxface.
Okay.
She seemed like a sneaky little devil, and I appreciate that.
That's an excellent choice.
That type of game.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the second listener write in, what rating would you get if you were a tribute?
Oh, in the training center? Oh my God. Yeah. I don't think the art gallery end of the training center is going to net you many points. So I don't know. I think realistically, I'm probably clocking in at an Allen Iverson 3. What about you?
I think I could probably clock a 6.
Yeah, I don't handle many weapons in my life. And I'm actually not very good at art either. So this would be a big learning experience for me in the training center.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
To make you make
we're also in our 30s now. If I tried to throw that thing like Peeta did, I would need a week and a half off of work to just ice my back.
Minimum. What do you mean a week and a half? I'm probably retired. I'm collecting disability at that point.
You have any more?
No, those are the 4 I had for you today.
I got 2 to throw back at you.
You have 2. Okay.
What's your favorite of the series?
My favorite book or movie?
Book. You can give either one.
To be honest, my answer is the same.
Yeah,
Catching
same.
Fire.
Yeah, it's the best. Easily the best.
Finnick is my favorite character too.
Yeah, and I think it's also because I don't know. It's the one book. Well, I guess there's only 3 we've had with the games, but it's my favorite arena and actual Hunger Games is in Catching Fire. The arena was just so cool in that one, and then having the bigger cast of characters with more alliances was awesome. So great choice. The other one, just for the timeliness of it, this was released near Twilight. During Twilight, the whole rage was picking between, I don't know their names, Robert Pattinson and other guy who I don't know with black hair. And people were team one or the other. I got to know. The people need to know. Are you team PETA? Which I'm just realizing. Is his name PETA for pita bread?
Randy, if that's true, you're just ruining this character for me. And it makes so much sense that it would be, but I just thought it was a cool name. I didn't want to equate him to a piece of bread. He got enough bread in the book.
Suzanne is wild. If she named him after pita bread.
That's what the internet is saying.
Yeah.
Screw you, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, team PETA or are you team Gale?
You're making this hard, but I'm team PETA here.
I don't know. How are you team PETA? I mean, I do like bread. I'll carb load all day.
And we can use this to move into casting, but I think that Liam Hemsworth's performance as Gale was stronger than Josh Hutcherson's as PETA. I will concede that fully, but as a character, I think just the innocence of PETA and how he was always truly just trying to do what he thought was right in this first book. I had to be team PETA. I just kind of fell for his shtick. I don't know.
Yeah, man, better you than me. I don't know. Maybe I just can't suffer fools, but I just couldn't handle PETA.
Say what you want about Gale. PETA survived the Hunger Games. Okay.
Yeah, he got drugged to the finish line.
There are only 76 people who have ever done that, and he's one of them.
Yeah, he's one of them. All right, let's get into casting and performances.
Boom.
How do you want to start this?
I want you to hit me with your score and then why you gave it to me, and then we'll go into the best casting award.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a few things to talk. I mean, I think there's Jennifer Lawrence to talk about, and then there's the entire rest of the ensemble.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make you wait a little bit on my score as we talk through it here. But
you're doing me dirty, Randy.
I know. I've been Jennifer
building
Lawrence.
Suspense.
I know. I'm building suspense. She was pretty much unknown. I mean, I know she was nominated for Winter's Bone, but that was the only thing she was in prior to this.
She did that music video.
Yeah, news to me.
She was in The Mess I Made by Parachute.
Cool. Don't remember it. Well, that changes everything.
I don't know how you didn't see this coming, Randy.
Yeah. Didn't realize she was Meryl Streep. No, but she was completely unknown. And I was reading in my completely nerdy, which I found, official illustrated movie companion. And
wait, time out.
Yeah.
What is the official?
It's definitely something you bought at Kmart at the checkout line. It just walks you through the whole movie, how they casted, where they shot it at. It's like special features in book form. So I'm all about it.
All right. We're definitely posting this to the Instagram. Go check it out there if you want to know what Randy's talking about. It'll
incredible.
Be up Tuesday.
But they talked about her being cast and said how critical it was. And not only did she kill it as Katniss, but I mean, it was the birth of a legit movie star now. I mean, she went on such a tear in those years and has since stepped back to, have a family and stuff, but literally was the beginning of just a huge run for Jennifer Lawrence. And she was just incredible in this. Like, there's no other way to say it. She really got the essence of the character. She put in a great performance. She was like, she had the sassiness and sort of, I don't know if it's the stoicism of Katniss, but maybe just that guardedness that Katniss has, but can also give into her emotions at times. She just, I don't know, just every aspect of what you needed Katniss to do in this movie, Jennifer Lawrence delivered on it, and it was incredible.
I have nothing to add.
Do you like her performance?
I agree with you completely. Yeah, no, I have nothing to add. I agree with you completely there. And to what we were talking about, I can't, and maybe it's because she is so ingrained in this character now, to me, I can't think of a single person that I would be like, oh, this person would have been better, or this person also could have pulled this off. I think this character is just so uniquely Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a slew of, who knows if any of these casting rumors are real, but there was so many people out there also considered. But it's hard to imagine anyone else. I could see maybe like an Emma Stone doing it, but I don't know. Jennifer Lawrence is Katniss, like no two ways about it. I don't
know if I could see it. Sorry, I don't know if I could see Emma Stone doing it.
Yeah, I think
I see where you're going with that.
She's got a little bit of that vibe of Jennifer Lawrence. But yeah, I mean, casting and performances wise, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. I mean, not only for her, but the ensemble of this movie is just stacked. I know who was on this ensemble. Read it off. Who do we got in this movie?
Dude, we've got Woody Harrelson. We've got Elizabeth Banks. Freaking Lenny Kravitz, the man, the myth, the legend was in here. I mean, you have Stanley Tucci. You have Donald Sutherland. You have a Hemsworth.
Yeah.
The list. Did I miss anybody big? Amandla Stenberg.
Yeah. Well, she was Rue. I mean, she was like 7,
but she was awesome.
Yeah, she was awesome in it. Yeah,
but just so good. And hang on, I'm blanking. Kato. He's been in things. Why am I blanking on his name right now?
I've got no idea on Kato.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up. Alexander Ludwig. What I really know him from is that series Vikings. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Okay. He was really good in that.
Yeah, I mean, but this ensemble,
he did a great job as a career there.
Yeah,
I really bought into him as a District 1 personality.
Yeah. I mean, and they did something in this movie that they do a lot with YA adaptations or movies that involve a young cast, is they surround them with like bona fide actors who like really know what they're doing. And they did that pretty perfectly in this one. I mean, the surrounding cast just leapt off the pages of this book into the movie. Elizabeth Banks as Effie it's iconic. She's incredible in it. Like Woody Harrelson as Haymitch, unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Donald Sutherland, he doesn't have much screen time, but
doesn't need it.
Doesn't need it.
Seneca, why do you think we have a winner?
What do you mean?
I mean, why do we have a winner? I mean, if we just wanted to intimidate the districts, why not round up 24 of them at random and execute them all at once? It'd be a lot faster. Hope.
Hope?
Hope. It is the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. Spark is fine, as long as it's contained.
So,
contain it.
Just comes
That's
in.
That's how powerful it was. Yeah.
For 2 outs and throws 100 miles an hour. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
He's Mariano Rivera here.
Yeah.
I mean, just coming.
Yeah, it was just nuts.
More people have walked on the moon than have gotten a hit off of Mariano Rivera in the postseason. And I fully believe that more men have walked on the moon than could pull off what Donald Sutherland pulled off there.
At first, I thought you were about to tell me some insane Donald Sutherland fact about the moon. And I was like, whoa, I'm ready for this.
If you told me he walked on the moon after being President Snow, I'd probably believe you.
Yeah, I'd probably believe you. What did you give this out of 5? The casting and performances.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was fantastic. There are a couple of characters that maybe didn't hit 100% for me, which is why I didn't give it a 5 out of 5. But
who's that?
Elizabeth Banks. It's honestly Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
I thought until they got to the games, his performance was good, not great in the movie.
Yeah.
He really picked it up in the second half of that movie. And then I thought he really took another leap in Catching Fire. So I do think he got better as an actor, and he will hit some of those marks for me later in the series. But if I'm looking at this objectively for just the first movie, he was just good.
Yeah.
Not great. And again, that's still like,
yeah,
I'm not saying he should have been replaced or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to, shit on his performance. I thought he did a good job, but he was surrounded by excellence. And when you're surrounded by excellence, good stands out, and not in a very pleasant way.
Yeah.
But I thought Elizabeth Banks was the perfect hyperbole of what the worst parts of society are.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the way she played that character gave us an insight into the Capitol and the persona of the Capitol. That was a real value add that we didn't necessarily get in the books. Hey Mitch, Woody Harrelson. I was only familiar with a couple of his comedic roles before this, and
White Man Can't
maybe
Jump.
that's on me. Yeah, oh my
incredible
God,
movie.
so funny.
Such
that
a good
is
movie.
so funny.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But this was the first time I took him really seriously as an actor, and that was pretty cool. And again, I was 16, so it's not like I had a ton of time to learn about Woody Harrelson, but that's what I did in 2009. I am obsessed with Lenny Kravitz. So for him, he could have come in this movie and done nothing, and I would have talked about how great he is. But I genuinely think he nailed Cinna.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that character is such a good character too.
It is. And it's such a good, that even keel, he just nails the the composure that Cinna has. Just, Lenny Kravitz, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. I've realized after doing a few of these episodes with you that when Nick Hingston says this performance was good, not great, that's your nice way of saying didn't really work for me. But
okay, I will say if somebody gave a bad performance or destroyed a character that I loved, I would tell you.
Yeah.
But just just because Josh Hutcherson didn't hold his own against Donald Sutherland, doesn't.
I mean, who can?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why would I be mean about it?
No. Fun fact about Donald Sutherland: he wrote a lengthy email to Gary Ross, the director, kind of pitching why he thought the role of Snow should be expanded within the movie, and glad he sent that letter. And Gary Ross said it was a huge inspiration for them taking this back and working with Suzanne to build out the role a little bit more of the Capitol in the movie,
no
which is awesome. That's some of the best stuff in the movie. And I think it adds so much more depth to what's going on in the arena to be sliding back and forth between what's happening in these Hunger Games and what's happening in the Capitol, who's orchestrating the games behind the scenes, and the head game maker, the person running this show, which was a character created for the movie. He wasn't in the book that I'm aware of, Seneca. I thought it was just a great idea. It worked really well.
Yeah.
You want to hit me
Honestly,
with sorry, go ahead.
Let's take that to plot execution, but real quick, I'll hit you with the casting award.
Let's do it.
Are we still calling these watchies? What are we calling these now?
I don't know.
We need a name.
Yeah.
We need to name this award show. If you have an idea, please let us know, because we have not come up with anything.
And stuff.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Hit me with the drum roll. And the nominees for Best Casting are Woody Harrelson as Haymitch, Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss Everdeen, Elizabeth Banks as Effie, Lenny Kravitz as Cinna, Donald Sutherland as President Snow, and Stanley Tucci as my son, aka Caesar Flickerman.
Just slid in a 6th nominee. I'm sensing some collusion from the Academy here.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no nepotism in Hollywood.
Yeah, none. I honestly, you could give a checkmate argument for any of these people. Honestly, any of them. You almost get the sense that the movie doesn't work if you drop any one of them, because they all deliver so hard. My heart completely says Effie. Elizabeth Banks. This was my introduction to Elizabeth Banks, I think. And she's incredible as Effie. And you grow to like really appreciate Effie in the book. And then even in the movie, because she's not like outright sinister or kind of in bad faith like a lot of the Capitol people. It's almost like she doesn't even know any better. She doesn't get it. And Elizabeth Banks just nailed it. So she was just so great in this movie. She's so funny. She's the great sort of like comedic levity.
I think you just nailed it. You needed an actor who was familiar with comedic acting, but also had the ability to deliver a serious role. And tell me that's not Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah, I mean, she leapt off the pages onto the screen. Like, it was unbelievable. It feels so wrong not to give it to Jennifer Lawrence when she just knocked it out of the park, and not only knocked it out of the park in this role, but then just blew up as an actor. So that's tough, but I think I'm going to go with Woody Harrelson. And there's a little bit of bias here that I really loved, especially in the book, the Haymitch-Katniss relationship. And Woody came in and he delivered. And he's a little bit different, I think, in the movie, actually, in that in the book, he's almost a little bit more of the levity. Effie still is too. But it's like, oh, in the beginning, Haymitch is drunk and he fell off the stage and like stuff like that. But he adds a little bit more depth, I feel like, to Haymitch in the movie. And he's sort of the link between Katniss and back home, and Katniss and Peeta at times. And then also when Katniss is in the games, he's also the kind of connection to her. So I think Woody Harrelson he just delivered in that role for me.
You really want to know how to stay alive? You get people to like you. Oh, not what you were expecting. When you're in the middle of the games and you're starving or freezing, some water, a knife, or even some matches can mean the difference between life and death. And those things only come from sponsors. And to get sponsors, you have to make people like you. And right now, sweetheart, you're not off to a real good start.
Okay. Congratulations, Woody Harrelson. Your most prestigious award to date.
Would you would you have gone Effie? Elizabeth Banks?
I was going to go Effie. Yeah, Elizabeth Banks
hard
was
not
going to
to
get it if I was going to pick. I just think her character was too important. And the reason I think she was too important is her performance was a big value add over Effie in the books.
Yeah.
And if we're going to go into plot, execution, and faithfulness to the source material, 4 out of 5. Again, it was great. But there was a lot of value adds in the adaptation that built that world. And to your point, Donald Sutherland writing that letter, which was awesome, by the way. I did not know that until you said it. You get this character, Seneca Crane, and through Seneca Crane, you learn more about Snow and the depths of his evilness, for lack of a better word, and his manipulation and the way he views the world. And that lends this whole layer of darkness upon the whole thing. I did have a couple misses. One were some notable character omissions. I think even with how long this movie already was, the omission of the mayor's daughter before Katniss is selected for the Hunger Games, I thought that added a lot of depth to Katniss's character in the book, having her in it. The other kind of big miss for me was the toned back version of Rue in the movie, and that's specifically why I couldn't give it a 5 out of 5. The book, even though it's the same amount of time that Katniss is with Rue in the book and the movie, there's a lot more conversation with Rue, and there's a lot more depth to Rue's character, I think, in the book. And that made Rue's death in the games in the book so much more impactful to me and emotional for me than it was in the movie. And that's nothing against the performance of Rue. I think it was just a decision they had to make to tone it back. But I really missed that in the movie. Other than that, though, I thought they did a really good job giving you subtle nods to things in the book that were really important that, might have been not as obvious if you hadn't read it, such as the extent of Haymitch's drinking, the way they incorporated the flashbacks to Peeta giving Katniss the bread. There's a long exposition about it in the book, but they did a really good job of show, don't tell, and the different parts of that flashback coincided with the Katniss's feelings changing towards Peeta, and I thought that was really cool and really well done. So I don't know. I have a lot of good things to say. I think we've said a lot of them already. 4 out of 5. And I'm excited to hear what you say, unless you disagree with me, in which case I don't know, part ways, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think this, outside of the casting and performances, is the strongest part of the movie. They're extremely faithful to the source material, and they build it out and fleshed it out in ways that made a lot of sense, and I think made the movie better for me. And one of the things that I really appreciated with the movie is they do an excellent job of treating the audience like they have some intelligence and not over indulging in exposition. Just some easy examples are at the beginning when Katniss and Gale are in the woods in the book. She's in her head thinking, it's almost like she's talking to the reader of like, oh, we hunt and we're not really supposed to be hunting. So, sometimes we're really scared and this is how I get out. And in the movie, they could have done a voiceover and explained all of that. And it would have just felt really ham-fisted. And they more of just show a Capitol plane flying over and them hiding. And you start to realize, oh, they're not supposed to be out here. This is frowned upon. Or, even the stuff with Katniss's dad, you don't really know what happened right away at first. And you can see she's got some sort of animosity towards her mom, but they don't stop, the movie in its tracks to explain this. They just kind of have the viewer just trust in it. Like, oh, we'll figure it out as we go along. And they do return to it if it's important. So I thought they just did a really great job of that. And I thought they did a way better job of moving the narrative outside of Katniss and showing, like I said, what was going on in the Capitol. And that stuff just really worked for me and made the movie way better, in my opinion, where I loved stepping outside of the Hunger Games, even while they were going on. So it was really good. I love getting to know Snow. I mean, he's literally not in the book at all. He shows up to like say some words at the initial chariot ride, and he is there at the end with giving them their little tiara crown things, and that's it. So I loved getting that built out.
Yeah, he's in the book. It's almost a little bit like Voldemort in the first Harry Potter book, where it's this ominous presence of a figure that exists, but you don't get to interact with them a ton.
Yeah, totally. And you're not even really sure, like, you're assuming he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
But you are unaware of how much he is the one orchestrating why the Capitol is the way it is. And we even know that a little bit more deeply now from the prequel. But I thought this was great. I mean, I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. And the things that didn't work for me were I felt that there was a lot of clunkiness to Katniss and Peeta during their time at the Capitol before the Hunger Games started.
Mhm.
And especially the scene where at some point Peeta decides he doesn't want to be trained anymore with Katniss. And it just feels very abrupt in the movie. And you're not really sure why. And it's not really explained why. And then, I already said I did not really enjoy their stuff, their love stuff in the cave, just did not work for me. I don't really see either how they show the scene of Haymitch sort of arguing with the game maker about Katniss in the arena and, why they shouldn't kill her. I can't even remember what she did. I think it was after Rue giving the signal, kind of the 3-finger salute. But I'm like, how would Haymitch have any sway over the head game maker? That didn't really make sense to me. So that stuff just didn't really work. But I really loved. Oh no, actually, the other thing that did not work was I missed the fuller extent to Katniss working with Haymitch while she was in the game, and we get a kind of one line towards it. Sort of the subtle nod. But in the book, I really enjoyed how she was realizing that she needed to play up the love aspect for the TV. Mm-hmm. And if she did, Haymitch would reward her with stuff, food or whatever, medicine. And I kind of missed that a little bit. But those were kind of my big grievances. The only thing I haven't mentioned about Peeta was got a great laugh out of me every time Katniss is walking and finds him in the mud, and you just see Peeta like smile laying there in the mud. I'm just like, what is this bozo doing? Like, just kills me every time.
Very serious scene, this reuniting of teammates and lovers, and Randy's over here dying.
It is so funny to me every time I see it. Just after it's the payoff of the setup of him just painting himself to look like Korg from Thor Ragnarok. Like, just cracks me up. Oh man, Peeta, what are you doing?
I'm surprised you didn't go with Groot.
Yeah, he kind of looks a little Groot-like. He just looks a little more rocky.
Oh, I was thinking, when you say that, my thought goes to the training center where he paints himself to look like the tree.
Yeah.
And that's why, okay, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say on plot, or do you want to hear nominations for best movie scene?
Hit me with the noms.
Reaping ceremony. Start of the book, start of the movie.
Of course.
Iconic line. I volunteer as tribute. First meeting with Haymitch. Maybe consider the scene them kind of arriving at the Capitol. They meet Haymitch. They're meeting Effie. They're meeting Cinna.
Yeah.
They're kind of having those discussions. The training scene. We've talked about it, with specifically when Katniss fires the arrow through the pig and does the thank you for your consideration bow. Tracker Jacker scene when she knocks the nest down, and then you go into almost this fever dream scenario where she's seeing flashbacks. She's seeing your son walking through the woods, giving some exposition. And then finally the mutt scene where they're on the cornucopia with Cato. And I just threw this in here because Cato was going for it here. He was putting on trying to win his Oscar. So of those 5 scenes, what are you going with?
I think, actually, I had 2 different ones.
What's missing?
You would do. I've had the scene where Snow is talking to Seneca Crane in the garden.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I'm devastated I missed that one.
And I had Rue's death, that whole scene.
Yeah. I struggle with Rue's death just because, like, if I were to watch this movie again in the next week or 2, I would probably fast forward through Rue's death because I'm like, I just don't want to see it again. I just don't want to have to deal with that. Incredible.
And that's why that scene was so good.
Incredible. That little girl, whoever she is, she nailed it as Rue. That's tough. What are you going with?
Yeah, but with your noms, I'll go with the reaping ceremony, I think. I almost want to give it to Cato because I think it's an important scene where even this career tribute has started to realize he is a pawn in the Capitol's game and his life means nothing to them. And that's kind of the opposite of what District 1 thinks of themselves. And that was really impactful. But I think the reaping, you got to give to Jennifer Lawrence in the reaping scene.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the scenes you think about from this movie still to this day. It's been, what, 12 years? Yeah, it's iconic. So I agree. This is probably what I would have gone with too. I threw the Tracker Jacker scene there. That one had a good replay value for me. When I rewatched this last night,
yeah, for sure.
I didn't remember that scene, and I was just like, wow, this is a great scene. Like, I really enjoyed that much more in the movie than in the book too.
Oh, okay.
Just because you got Caesar Flickerman walking through the woods and she's like tripping out, and it was great.
Yeah, no, they did a really good job with that scene. I just think it didn't hold up to the two that it's for me. It didn't hold up to the two that I talked about.
World building and aesthetics. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, let's break it down. 5 out of 5. It was dope. It was so dope. World building. It's a captivating world. They really did the book justice. They gave us visually what I think fans of the series were craving. They blew it out, and it shows. And then the aesthetics. Everything was done so well. How overdone the people in the Capitol are compared to the simplicity of what people in District 12 are wearing. I loved how there was, when they were in District 12, everything was gray, but it was still sunny, and you could see that there was a little bit of hope. But when they're in the Capitol, everything's like gray and dark. And even though the colors are kind of the same, there's this, it's a little bit darker, and that puts this more ominous tone on it, even though it's way nicer of like a place to be. I just thought everything was done in a way that really built visually the world. And I think the value adds of what Donald Sutherland helped inspire really helped build the world of the Capitol. That along with Effie's performance. District 12 was beautiful, and I loved how it set the stage for this prequel to come out however many years later, 12 years later, and then build upon that limited portion of this world. I don't know. I think there's so many places they can go if they want to, and with sequels and prequels, and I really think they did a great job. I was really high on it.
Yeah, you mentioned the look of the costuming, and I just got to give a shout out to, I think I had said Judianna Makovsky. She did the costume design for this movie. I think this is the strongest aspect almost of like the aesthetics of the movie. I think she just did such a great job. I don't know if she won an award for this.
If she didn't, that's a crime.
It was so good. I mean, even to this day, I remembered what Katniss is like, or all the tributes training uniforms look like. And I remember what she was wearing in the games, and like the blue dress at the reaping ceremony. Like, it was so good taking it from the book to the screen. She just did an amazing job. And she did actually win an Oscar for Sorcerer's Stone. So she worked on the Harry Potter movies. She's worked on a lot of Marvel movies. But I think she just did such a good job with this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've had kind of a range in my thought in this one. I've been kind of flirting between a 3.5 and a 4.5, and kind of convinced myself, because I think what didn't work for me with the aesthetics and stuff was, I thought the cinematography I didn't love the shaky cam use in this movie, and it felt really disorienting to me at times. So I didn't love how they shot some of the,
like when they were in the games.
They used it outside of the games too. Like, even I could tell it was like a handheld camera when they were like sitting talking to Haymitch at the table. And I don't know. I'm not a handheld shaky cam guy, and that's personal preference. So I just didn't love the way some of the shooting of the movie was done and some of that editing. But literally everything else, which is why I rate this so highly, is like, the world building was incredible. It has such a unique feel to it. The Capitol has such a unique feel to it. It looks good. All of the sort of combat that kind of happens within the arena, I thought looked pretty good. Even for being 12 years old, the Mutts looked fine, you know. So I think I'm going to settle in on, I give this a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Really
Split
excellent
the
world.
difference.
Yeah, really excellent world building. Aesthetics, only a knock for that one part, but I thought the actual costuming and production design of this looked really good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 4. Soundtrack. Whew. This is the roughest part for me.
I watched this movie a week ago.
Couldn't tell you one.
Not one. Not even in the opening. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. And the reason I gave it a 3 out of 5 is because I had originally given it a 2.5 out of 5, like just middle of the pack. Because if it was bad, it would have stuck out. Just because it wasn't like good, if it had sucked, you and I would be just absolutely destroying it right now. And then I elevated it a little bit because when you think about soundtrack, I think you have to think about the best uses of sound.
Yeah, sound design was okay.
Well.
Yeah.
And the sound design was good.
Yeah.
And the 4-note whistle that has become iconic and definitely a symbol of the Hunger Games series. That's also, that's a musical piece right there in itself. And the way they have the Mockingjays just mimic it, and you hear the beautiful intertwining of like when they start on different notes. I think you have to give that credit too. And that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I will agree. Maybe we should expand this sort of soundtrack section to just be called sound or something, because there is a little bit more than just the actual musical cues that happen, which is how I think about it anyway. I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. I felt like I agree that some of the sound design was really good in this, but that's the only reason it's getting 2 points. I mean, to me, it feels like Gary Ross and the team behind the Hunger Games are Lucy, and they set up this football, and here comes Charlie Brown, this guy coming in to kick the football, and he just whiffs so hard. like it's bad. And I feel like I only recognize this because I was posting something for us on Instagram, and I was like, let me go put in some music from the Hunger Games. And I'm listening to all the songs on Spotify, and I'm like, these are bad. Like, none of these are memorable. They're just so bland. I just really did not like it.
Maybe they ran out of money.
Maybe.
Like, seriously, maybe they ran out of money, and like the soundtrack is where they had to cut. And that's why they just try to get things that wouldn't be memorable on purpose.
It's just hard when you think about big franchises, which this is now rising to that level. You think of those music. You think of the musical cues of Indiana Jones. You think of Jurassic Park and Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and things like that. And this just does not have that at all. Couldn't tell you one of the soundtrack songs. So sorry, James Newton Howard did the soundtrack for this. He also did it for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So this guy he's missing hard for me. But I will say, when we get to Catching Fire, they have a pop song, not a pop song, but they have a song written for the movie that I really like. That was done by Monsters and Men.
I like the music that was written for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, though. I think, if I remember correctly, I rated that a little bit higher than you. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of it higher than you. I don't know. I agree with you here. I disagree with you on the prequel.
Yeah, the only prequel love I'll give is Olivia Rodrigo, and that's because Olivia Rodrigo writes just absolute bops. But for this one, I got to give it a 2. I just really did not like it. Really unmemorable. Would you give it a 3? You said?
I gave it a 3.
Okay.
And I gave it a 3 mostly because of how iconic that 4-note whistle is.
Yeah. Legacy standalone appeal. What are you giving here?
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I'd be open to rate that higher if we see a resurgence in the Hunger Games now that the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes has come out, and I would be curious to see what this did to book sales and what this did to movie sales or rental numbers of the original Hunger Games. I'm not sure, and without that, I don't think I can give it a perfect 5. But if we saw that those numbers just skyrocketed real quick for Suzanne Collins, I'd say it's probably a 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm in a 4. I think this
it's strong.
It's strong. It's stronger than I thought. It kind of slipped out of my consciousness a little bit after the series, where I was like, I didn't know if it was going to have staying power, but actually people still talk about it. And I was shocked when we did the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes that like the book did well. The movie seemed to be a hit for younger generations. So I think there is some staying power to this. And I think especially as I think about the sort of young adult book adaptation blitz we got from like in the 2010s, this is probably going to be the strongest. I think it is the strongest one that is coming out of there.
Oh yeah,
like
for
100%,
without a doubt.
Yeah. And this was, I also think when I think about sort of legacy, I mean, this was a phenomenon when it came out. I mean, and you also get these iconic things that happen. We already talked about the 3-finger salute, the whistle. You have the lines that people were using in everyday life for like to be funny, like, you know, I volunteers tribute, or may the odds be ever in your favor. Like you get those that kind of have seeped into just like the public consciousness.
Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
Yes.
Where if you were to say that, people who might not have even seen the movie know what you're referring to. If you were to tell someone, may the odds be ever in your favor. And I think
even today.
Yeah. Even today. Are there any other quotes or things from the movie that kind of stick out to you that you liked?
I know we're going to get off this podcast and I'm going to think of 10. But you nailed the big ones. I think the biggest one for me was may the odds be ever in your favor. I could be making this up because you and I are talking about this now, but I feel like I heard somebody say that recently and I was like, oh, cool. Like Hunger Games.
Yeah. I also, on the reread, I really enjoyed the thank you for your consideration during the training scene. I was like, I love sassy Katniss. When she,
that was great.
You know, when she just kind of loses her cool a little bit. Do the who won the movie stole the show?
Our millennials, and specifically young millennials, won this movie because, again, Harry Potter was so successful and we grew up in that time. But then for us to get a second massive success, and I'm not saying that this, you know, is as big as Harry Potter, but we had all that success. And then the second one that I really remember them trying, well, I guess you had Twilight, but that was successful. And then you had the Hunger Games, which took it from, you know, this is for more for children to this is for everybody. And it kind of, I think, was like a precursor to getting all of the other book series that we loved adapted. I don't know. I just really think we won. Does that make sense? I might.
Do you have a second nominee? Because don't we both bring 2?
Yeah, that was my first nominee. Seneca Crane's beard. I don't know. No, I actually would say that. I would say that Jennifer Lawrence was the second nominee for me because this just took her career and catapulted her into the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. I had two simple ones. Elizabeth Banks. I mean, she's one of those people who comes into a movie and is just a wrecking ball that it's like hard to even pay attention to anyone else because she's so good in it.
Yeah.
She's just phenomenal. And it also just like, it just made me immediately fall in love with Elizabeth Banks. Like, I just want to see everything she's ever in because she's hilarious. And yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the only movie I'd seen with her prior was she was in 40-Year-Old Virgin. Because she's the girl with Steve Carell. She's, you know, put the bike in your trunk. Such a great movie. My second nominee, I mean, it's got to be Jennifer Lawrence. I don't think anyone came out just literal rocket out of this movie into Hollywood, and simultaneously with this was in all of the X-Men movies, was in hit after hit after hit. Did Silver Linings Playbook, and she was doing these like big franchise movies, but then also getting these like serious drama roles.
Yeah.
She was just, I mean, massive. And she still is. I know she took like a small break from acting, but she came back with that comedy last year, No Hard Feelings. But I think she,
which was funny.
Yeah. I think she stole the show. I mean, I don't know how anyone else could win it but her, but
I mean, if we both nominated her, she's got to win. So,
so what do we got total score wise?
I gave it a 20 out of 25.
I think I'm at an 18.
38 out of 50s.
Because 4 times.
Strong.
Let me see. So I think I actually might have counted wrong on Argyle when we did this last time. 4. How many 4s did I give? I guess 4 4s, 16.
4 4s and a 2.
Yeah, 18.
38 out of 50 is strong.
So 38 out of 50.
Lands solidly above Argyle.
The day we do something that falls below Argyle is going to be a bad day.
So the day we do Twilight.
Yeah. I don't know, but I feel like we can have fun with that one.
I had fun with Argyle. Way more fun than you had.
I did not. 38 out of 50 though. Yeah, that's solid. I mean, this is a good adaptation. Like, this is a really good adaptation of a book. And this is why I even feel like where the movie, to me, this is a rarity as a book lover where it just worked in a whole new way. Maybe excited to return to it and read even Catching Fire as well. Nick, do you...
Congratulations. I was going to say, congratulations to our award winners. We had Woody Harrelson win Best Casting. We had Jennifer Lawrence essentially win Best Movie Scene with The Reaping. And she also won the movie. So not a clean sweep for J-Law, but pretty close.
She's pretty good.
Honorable mention to Elizabeth Banks. If you guys couldn't tell, we very much enjoyed her performance in this movie.
She's awesome. I'm excited to go check out some more of these. This is a great movie, great book. Anything else you want to cover? You want to wrap it up?
Wrap it up for us.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you have thoughts or questions you want to share, please reach out to us via email at rewatchplaypod@gmail.com. Message us on rewatchplaypodcast on Instagram. You can find us on all your major platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review, 5 stars only, or we're going to throw a spear through you like we did Rue, as those help more people find the show. I just wanted to see your face.
Wow.
Most importantly, please tell your friends about the pod if you're enjoying it. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thank you, Nick, for joining me. Sorry. Thank you, Lucky Flickerman, for joining me. Till next time, everybody. I feel like we should say, may the odds be ever in your favor to end the pod. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for your consideration. May the odds be ever in your favor.